Hey everybody, happy Friday. All right, so I think we're week 2 into this, and I don't know about you guys, but we're getting through it, and it's been definitely a opportunity to grow. My comment that I make often that I had picked up from a friend of mine, and she had said, "Trauma is blocked imagination." So if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling like you're at your wits' end, it's okay because we are in this together and we can work through this together. And know that, as my husband and I say, the good news is that we're not both freaking out at the same time. We've got each other and we can lean in on each other, and hopefully, as we navigate through this, not be getting overwhelmed collectively together, but really just dropping in and holding on to each other. And so that's what this is all about at the Daily Huddle. Is we don't have to have it all figured out. We don't have to have every bit of information. It's okay if you don't have the answers. It's okay if you are having a rough day, because this is an opportunity for us to come together and just share and talk about what we can share so that collectively we can navigate through this and not only survive, but really thrive. We've got some wonderful, wonderful folks that are on today, and I want to welcome Liliana. Liliana is my extraordinaire, my nutritionist extraordinaire, and I want to give you a little bit of a backdrop on her background because she is, like I said, been doing just this fabulous job and supporting me. And it took me really, 9 months. I had told her, as I was going through my original diagnosis, I went out and sought out a nutritionist, somebody that listened to what I was concerned about. They recognize the eating patterns that I have. They recognize that I'm not a cook. I don't find any stress relief from being in the kitchen and cooking. So that was not an option. But she's been able to go ahead and give me some recipes that make it so they're doable. It's something that I can actually manage. And one of the things that we've got a company that's coming on board at the end of this call that I am going to be working with, that's going to be packaging and bringing meals in. So I'll be announcing them as well. Liliana works at the Center for New Medicine, and she's truly an absolute rock star. I think the thing I love about you the most, Liliana, is that she is grace under fire, meaning she just doesn't let things rock her world. She's a true collaborator in every sense. And so she has been helping me bring my doctors, my wellness providers together. We're able to talk about not only just the diagnosis that I had, but also friends of mine that are facing illnesses, as well as dealing with challenges with the coronavirus. Her specialties include metabolic syndrome, wait lists, and diabetes. She uses techniques such as food combining and eating right for your blood type, as well as live blood cell analysis. And again, I've been saying this. So she has been in the health and fitness industry for over 23 years. So welcome, Liliana. I have her on speed dial,
Yeah, that's
and
good.
my friends are already asking. I get these calls because Liliana has been on this call now for several months, but I get these calls from my girlfriends, and they said, okay, how can I reach her? How can I get a hold of her? So we want to make sure that we give that information. So tell me, let's start off with, am I typical as a patient? I mean, I know I have tons of questions, and I've been putting you through a lot in these last. In fact, my husband just came home, and he had bags of just information and goodies, and you and I are going to be doing some work together, over the weekend remotely. And so I really appreciate you. But am I a typical patient? What are you seeing out there with patients these days?
Well, Michelle, I would say there's nothing absolutely typical about you. I would say you're my ideal patient. And the
Oh,
reason I say that is because you have embraced this diagnosis of yours as an opportunity for serious introspection and growth. And just with that mindset alone, I can always tell the people who are likely to make it up and over into thrivability, and those that are going to have a little harder time because their mind and their body connection isn't really working for them. They move into a lot of fear. And that was one thing that I immediately connected with you, as I said, wow, uh, she's completely taken this bull by the horns, honestly, and is directing it in the direction that she wants it to go, rather than the confusion of so many different doctors that you have seen that had led you down a road of, if you don't do this, this is going to happen, and a fear tactic. And that's not where healing takes place. So no, Michelle, you are absolutely not the typical patient, but you're my best kind of patient. Okay.
that's because you can keep up with me. That's all.
Yeah,
That's why.
exactly.
Well, and I love the comment that you had for me when we first met too, because we really truly get to decide, do we want to take our diagnosis as a, uh, do we want to go down the path with it being a struggle, or do we want to show up and truly own our wellness and just say, you know what, I'm going to fall in love with myself, and I'm really going to get to know myself and get to know not necessarily what my limitations are, but what is it that I can share with others to not only meet their needs but also meet my needs. And I felt like with you, I felt like I could really be genuine and vulnerable and just share with you. It's like this is affecting me. I mean, the conversation we had this week was the protocol that I'm on now out of Germany. Um, it caused a lot of nausea, and it scared me a little bit. And me, I don't get scared, but was throwing up, all week. And I was able to talk to you about it, get something that would help uh, take away the nausea, and also cranked up my cannabis. I gotta love cannabis. It totally helps. Not only does it give me the munchies, um, but that's what's been so interesting is I've always been working on losing weight up until this past year. And now my focus is, okay, what can I do to make sure that I keep the weight on, start gaining weight, and again, just really support my immune system. So talk to me about the process that you go through to figure out what a patient needs, and how you knew to really recommend individuals that are in the office like Molly, and some different folks, and Dr. Keneally, and really you've been this guide for me. um, it's been beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I'm super, super thankful. But I want the audience to know that whatever diagnosis you have, is be able to sit down with your wellness provider and be able to sort through what those next steps look like. So how do we start?
Well, I think the first thing is to be really clear about your comfort zone, when it comes to everything, your ability to put the energy into it, and financially to be able to support your treatment. It's really important to be very clear in regards of, it's okay to be slightly pushed to our edge of comfort, but not going over, so that there's more stress on the patient as far as their ability to be able to pay for their treatments uh, as they move forward. So I think the first place to start is to have an extreme amount of clarity with your physician, to let him know where your comfort zone is, and where outside that is going to be problematic. And as you've talked to me about that, well, you may have to seek other treatments, and insurance pays for tradition, but they don't pay for this. And so again, when I'm able to sit down with them, and them to be very vulnerable and share with it, I always preface it in two ways. Is that we all know that when we're going to go build a home, that it's going to cost us more than we expected. But if it costs us double the amount, we probably won't be able to move into the home because we will not be able to afford it. We don't want to be in that situation where we have, I mean, and I've seen it so many times, Michelle, especially with parents whose children have cancer. They go completely broke. They sell their house. They do this. They do that. And so again, we don't want to work out of fear. We want to work out of what is going to be best. And so, of course, for you, I said, okay, this is where we want to start. If we're not going to do more expensive testing like the RGGC, let's get a foundation and start with Molly, which is a biofeedback meridian testing, which is able to detect using the Natura line, which is a chemotherapy line of nutraceuticals, which are completely harmless to the body, but it will be able to detect what type of cancer it is and where it is, similar to the RGGC test. So that would be a foundation that I'd start them with as the least expensive test, which is $225, I think it is, instead of a $2,500 test that we potentially would get very similar information. Now, so again, I really kind of look at where should we start, and sometimes it's really important to just look at supporting you with your diet and the way your emotional well-being and emotional detoxification. Go for the things that we can create a full program for you in regards to the capacity that you're able to do this in a comfortable manner. And then, of course, with the physician, with the lab work and stuff, what is most important? Do you have diabetic issues, which we all know that cancer thrives off of glucose? So the first thing I'm going to use is food as your medicine. Second thing I'm going to look at, besides what tests we could do on affordability level, how are we going to really work on managing your stress? Because, kind of like this coronavirus, just like cancer, it's kind of like the boogeyman, once you actually think you've kind of gotten over your cancer, as we were talking yesterday, if you get a little lump here or pain there, you start to think in your mind, oh my God, is it coming back? Is it back? Or even when my patients are going through treatments and they've had a lot of good success, and then all of a sudden they get a pain here or there, they immediately go to, oh my God, cancer has metastasized. Similar to what we're kind of experiencing now is, wow, the virus is the boogeyman. We know it's around. Is it going to get us? Is it not going to get us? But then when we're living in that mindset of, the future of what ifs, you're going to lower your immunity because your natural killer cells are going to be depleted by way of emotional stress. So really, that's my foundation. It's okay. Food is medicine. You are just a chemical composition of what you eat. And so we look at, what kind of diet do you have? Do you have an acidic diet? We know that cancer loves acidity, loves low oxygen, and also glucose. So those are very simple things on a lifestyle level that doesn't cost you any money, that just costs mindfulness. Now,
So let's I'm going to go ahead and jump in just because you have so much great information, and I want to first go ahead and say thanks for everybody joining the call. These are recorded, and what's so nice is I wanted to have this for me when I was first diagnosed. Partly because as mama bears, as papa bears out there, we want to be able to give the best of the best to our families. And in doing so, oftentimes we go ahead and we forget about how to care for ourselves, and we forget that it's about treat yourself like somebody you're responsible for. And so the points that Liliana brought up is that oftentimes we don't put money towards our wellness and towards our health, and we do feel like it's because we can't sometimes physically see it, and we don't see the immediate results. I'll give you an example. I've been doing the hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and that's $250 when I go in and have oxygen therapy. And I get done, and it's difficult because I physically can't see something tangible. Liliana talked about the tests that was mentioning earlier, and those tests, they're invaluable if you want to be able to go ahead and pull that information together and then create this clear set plan. And I wish that I would have done one of those tests at the very beginning. And I even said that to Liliana. I said, why did I take this when I first figured out, that I had this diagnosis? And she said to me, and I want to talk about this a little bit because there's some folks that are getting on the call. We have Silvio that's on, and Rain. I mean, we've got some different folks. I see Gina on as well, and Rose. And so I wanted to say thank you because I'm getting calls literally every single day of my girlfriends, my friends who have. I mean, I'm into double digits with my close friends telling me that they have cancer, and it's not one particular kind. It's all different kinds. And now with the virus, it's really this opportunity for us collectively to come together and talk about how we can support our immune system, how we can help out. But I look at wellness providers and I think of these little angels that are showing up because they really truly want to give back and help guide you, especially when we're in this state of flux. We're in. I know how I was when I was told, at the doctors. My parents were there, my husband was there, and they told me, you have cancer. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I need to treat myself like somebody I'm responsible for because I haven't always put my health and my wellness first. So doing these types of tests, and can you repeat, Liliana, what's the name? Let's go through the name of the two tests.
Okay, so what you did is the biomeridian survey, which is a cancer screening. And so basically, it's going to work with the 64 meridian points of the body. And she uses specific vials, and each vial will hold a frequency, and each vial will represent a specific type of cancer. So as I was looking through your test, it was extremely accurate, everything that it said. So again, a patient who doesn't even know they have cancer, if they would take this test, we literally can tell you, are you at the starting gate? Are you in the middle? Or are you actually in tumor formation? Because it takes about 8 years to actually from start to, from the beginning cellular structure to have a tumor, about 8 years. And so again, it's not just a treatment mindset of it, it's also a preventative. So, I mean, why wouldn't anybody want to know? I know a lot of people go, I'm afraid to know. I don't want to know. Well, in all reality, we have to, like what you said, I need to be a person that is responsible for myself. And that's, you talk a lot about the mama bear. And so often we are really unconditionally loving our children, but we don't unconditionally love ourselves. And just like, when we have to spend money on treatments, it's like, oh my gosh, this, I can't see it. I don't really even have the tests that are telling me that I'm cured, but I have to continue on with this. Well, if it was your child, you wouldn't question, you would just do it. So I tell every patient, I want you to treat yourself like you would be treating your 9-year-old little girl, because your 9 little girl happens to be your immune system, because your immune system is based on emotional environment. It doesn't have executive function. So your the surrounding, your sympathetic responses, your parasympathetic nervous system, and where your organs are responding to the outside stressors will affect your immune system. So if I say, okay, I want you to treat yourself like, when you were 9 years old, that's not even good enough, because oftentimes they can't even connect to their inner child. But if you say your child, boy, right away they get, unconditionally loved a child. Yes, I understand that. I get that. You mentioned earlier in your diagnosis, we don't ever want to look at any diagnosis as a curtain call, but a wake up call. Because through everything that we have, even the coronavirus, anything that we're dealing with that is going to shake our world, or create some sort of drama in our life, trauma, there's going to be a pearl of wisdom underneath it. And if we could focus on that pearl of wisdom, just like what you said, I was given 3 months to live, but you know what, I chose to live out of joy, and this is the best year I have ever had. Well, wow, it's like you can't buy that, you can't read that in a book, you have to experience it. So when
You
we
have to, well, and you have to own it. I mean, I
yeah,
think the biggest thing I want to share to everybody, and there's folks on this call that I reached out to when I was going through, my journey. I mean, you, Liliana, being one of them. Silvio is on this call as well, and I can remember times where, you guys have been like literally, right, 6 inches from my face, and it's like if you don't believe in your wellness, and you and what you're communicating to your body, you can't expect someone else to. You can't. I mean, and that also means giving yourself a break too. I mean, I think we're so hard on ourselves. I mean, it's incredible how we can be the bully of our own playground at times. And so I want you guys to really, check yourself before you wreck yourself and just give yourself a break and say, you know what? Let me do one thing today. What's the one thing that I can do? What's the one piece of information that I can reach out to, and let it be a collaborative effort. I felt this overwhelming sense of um, just feeling like I was not able to get a handle on everything. And what I did was I said to myself, okay, who are the smartest people that I know? And how can I go ahead and bring them together? Also recognizing that ultimately the decision was going to be mine. And the reason why it had to be mine is because we are the ones that are going to really keep ourselves accountable. It's one thing, and my husband said this to me. He goes, Michelle, I could tell you, hey, you need to eat this way, you need to do this, but unless it's coming from you, unless you're the one that's saying that, I would have been resentful. I would have gotten frustrated with him. It really had to come from me owning my wellness. And in doing so, that's how I did have my best year in falling in love with myself. So I want to go back, Liliana, to the comments that you had earlier about talking to that, 8-year-old self, and that our immune system is truly our 8-year-old self. Because I thought that was such a great analogy. And it made me feel, and what I've been doing is creating a safe environment around me. Because when you are in that flight and fright mentality, that's when we're not creative. That's when we aren't allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and just ask the experts for help. And again, that doesn't mean that they are the end all and say it all. They have experience in their particular area and field. But if you can go ahead and pull your wellness team family together, and you're able to trust yourself, to know that they are showing up in love, it's very, very, very easy to be able to get that feedback. So talk to me more about that, because I think that correlates into this money factor.
Mhm.
And in feeling safe. I know when I don't have the answers on how I'm going to pay for treatments, I feel overwhelmed and I don't feel safe.
Mhm.
And that's something that, instead of running from it, this is the opportunity to get a plan. And we are going to be having Brian, who has a not-for-profit organization, that's going to be joining us. And thank you, Liliana, for introducing us to him and having him come on and just talking about, how people can go ahead and figure out what it is. First, starting with, what do they need? What do they need? And then looking at, from a budget standpoint, what can be brought in for resources. So how do people end up doing that?
As far as what Brian is concerned, his
I think just starting out with the conversation of, you know what, I'm worth the investment
okay, got it.
into time,
Yes, yes, yes.
into resources. You are not expected to know all these pieces. When I went to my team of doctors, my wellness team family, there was 180 years of experience on that call. And I had individuals that had Western medicine, Eastern medicine. I had my cannabis provider, Joe Aaron with MJ's. I mean, I had my group on the phone, and everybody had a different piece of the puzzle. It was like they filled the entire spokes of the wheel. So tell me this, the process, because I feel like with your experience over at New Center for Medicine, you are extremely gifted at collaboration, and you could see an ego coming a mile away, and you could see the dynamic happening between a patient and the ego, and you squash it right away. It's beautiful. So talk to me about that, and I want you to encourage, because like I have friends, family that are on this call, and you guys have heard me say this before. One out of two people, 1 out of 2 men will get cancer. 1 out of 3 women will get cancer in their lifetime. And now, lo and behold, we have this coronavirus. And so this is about being able to set our bodies up so that they can be healthy in the 21st century. Our bodies are not prepared for the environment. My diagnosis, I was told, was stress and environment. And so when I heard that, I thought, oh my gosh, I could actually do something with that.
Right.
I can get after that, because I'm going to repeat after this. I can affect my stress.
Yeah.
I can decide what I'm going to allow onto the playground and what bully I'm going to allow on or not allow on. I'm the gatekeeper of that stress, and also with our environment, which we're all learning so much right now in really staying home and building up our immune system. So if you could talk about that, and then let's talk about what things we can do to build up our immune system.
Okay, so I kind of want to touch a little bit. In the beginning, you talked about the inner child. And so think about the subliminal programming that we've all had from the time we were in our mother's belly until the age of about 12 years old. That's who you are. That is the filter of the way you see life. So what your parents thought of you, who you were, is basically your imprint. I am what you say, because have no experience of myself. And so the first thing we want to really look at is, are we really dealing with this from a level of fear, which is the future, right? Anxiety. And we have to say, okay, well, I've been programmed in situations in the past that when similar things happen like this, I automatically got anxiety. And then along with anxiety, I got insomnia. And along with insomnia, I got this. So your body's already subliminally programmed to prior events that have happened in childhood that you will normally respond as an adult. So I think the first thing to look at is to go and really and that's what I do with the e-box, is able to detect these emotions that are stuck in organ systems, to be able to start to dismantle a limiting belief system that one has, even about the worthiness of being able to be well, to recover, and to go into vital health and cellular balance. So I think it's really vital that we all recognize that we are a product of our environment, not just only the petrochemicals and toxins that we're exposed to, the unseen in the environment, but also generational parenting skills. And so again, it's really probably the cornerstone of healing. When we, as what you said, I chose to love myself. Well, what does that mean? It's giving yourself permission to rest and to recover, because cancer or any disease does not happen unless you have an overload principle. Okay, definitely this is, a metabolic issue, a mitochondrial dysfunction. But at the same time, when we don't have enough, if we have constantly in our mind stress and worry, anxiety and depression, then our brain can never recover. So what is it going to do? It's got to download it. It will download it either into an autoimmune disorder or into a tumor. So if we could just start being really vigilant and censoring the way our mind is speaking to us. And when I mention our immune system being that 9-year-old child, you want to say to yourself, if what I'm thinking that's giving me anxiety is going to make my child feel safe or uncomfortable, then I have to really kind of look at what I'm listening to, and I have to speak to it, that it has no place in my home because it's making my inner child feel anxiety and stress. And so it's really imperative that one starts to pay attention into what is the story that they're playing in their head that's causing them to have any sort of discomfort within their body, and then dispelling it and saying, well, are you happening that right now? What value do you have? And usually, it'll have no value and it's not happening right now. So it's an illusion. So you want to come back to the present moment right here, right now. I'm better than okay. Right now, I don't have a virus. Right now, all the people I love don't have a virus. I can collectively meditate. I can send vibrational frequency of love, but I don't want to buy into the fear, because then I'm actually depleting the capacity for healing to take place. So rest and recovery is essential, giving ourselves permission. A lot of us have, blood type A and A personalities, where we have this list that never gets shorter. And so again, we have to recognize, what kind of a personality do I have? Do I have this laundry list that never ends? Well, that's basically embrace the neurotic side of who you are and start to build in safety factors. When did I meditate? When did I do my breathing exercise? Did I go for a walk today? So that you can start building in your rest and recovery throughout the day, when you already know you have a personality that wants to go, 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 very testosterone driven. That's wonderful. But when we're in a compromised situation, we need to calm everything down, and we need to reserve our energy for healing, and not allow it to be drained with what's happening in the world, or with even the potential of our diagnosis and where it could take us, because we always want to be present in the moment. Like Eckhart Tolle said, I was listening to him yesterday, he said, if you built your house on a foundation of stone, you can weather anything. But if you built your house on a foundation of sand, then you will be in turmoil, and you will collectively join the fear, and we won't survive. And so once again, it's extremely important for you to start paying attention by asking yourself, how do I feel? Moment to moment. And when you say, oh, I'm feeling a little stressed, I'm feeling a little anxious, is don't wait until the end of the day when you go home to relax. It's at that moment right now, just say, how do I break that cycle? Those little, messages that are being sent across my brain that automatically makes me feel this. Well, break it by going and get a cup of tea, go outside, connect with something that's outside of what it is that you're thinking that's causing you some stress. So
I love it. I love it. And I think too, it sounds to me, and just knowing, I mean, you have, how many kids was it? Your family, you come from a family
11,
of
11 altogether.
11
Yeah,
kids.
tribe, huge tribe.
Well,
Yeah.
we had Katrina Roldan, and she has 11 kids. We call my son the 11th, and we had her on the show, and she went around, and we were able to see she had 8 that are home right now in this mix of it. And she said, she goes, you know what, this is my paradise. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy as a mom in this space. But she set up systems, and she set it where, individuals can again hold on to their response and manage their response. And that's what I've been learning this past year is being able to, have challenging situations pop up, have, the conversation with the doctors when they say, you have stage 4 breast cancer, and rather than being in this flight and fright mentality, it's been, okay, what can I do? What do I know are the facts? And also put myself into a position where I can have conversation that is uh, that supports me. So it's minus the fear tactics. It's minus the stigmas and the judgment and all of that. And I shared with you all, before, being told, you have 90 days to live. And I remember sitting back thinking, okay, well, that's a fear tactic. That's somebody that is trying to convince me, and they were trying to convince me to start a chemo protocol. And so those are things that we're doing on this call, is to really help you provide the skills to trust yourself. I mean, I've never been more in love with myself since I started trusting my gut. And I started saying, you know what, I can push the envelope. I can ask that question again. And you know what? It might make that doctor or that wellness provider feel uncomfortable, but does that mean that I'm going to go ahead and take a treatment that I don't feel comfortable with and I don't feel safe with? And so ask the questions and everything. And I love what you said earlier too, is, come up with a plan. And that's with everything. I was told, Catherine Ford, who will be on as well, and she said to me, and you said this to me too, Liliana, is Michelle, you got to bring what brings you joy into your life, 100%, and that's really hard to do. People, think about it. If you were told that you had to go through life and your sole objective was you could not get stressed out, you couldn't be the aggravated driver, yelling at the guy, flipping somebody off. I mean, you literally had to be in a place of your internal ecosystem is just calm, relaxed, you're showing up in love, not fear. And that's hard to do. And so, as you continue to practice it over and over, I have found that I've gotten better and better at it. And the times when I'm having these, outbursts that are fear generated are becoming less and less. There's an individual on the call now, Travis Lewis, and he was a paramedic. And we were talking last night because he is going to be, we're going to be signing up with his company to bring meals into my home. And he's able to do keto meals. And so my friends out there, Kathy, who brought me lunch today, and Karen DePaulins, and I've got all my girlfriends actually making food for me, and they need to make food for their families. So I'm super excited as at the end to have Travis jump in. And I also know, Liliana, you make marvelous, marvelous recipes. And I want to introduce the two of you because this is about collaboration. And your daughter is also a chef.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about just somebody like myself that literally you tell me to go speak, to an audience of 10,000 people, no problem, wouldn't even think twice. You could actually even have me get up on stage and then tell me what you wanted me to talk about. That's how I have no fear. But you ask me to make a dinner or make food for, a family, God forbid it's more than one person, it freaks me out. So let's talk about this. Is like how do we introduce these habits, starting with food, starting with meal preparation?
Yeah, I think even now, people are experiencing that dilemma. It's like, okay, I'm used to going out to, my meals at restaurants, and now I can't go to restaurants, and I'm home with my family, and I got to cook for them. So this is really, again, another wonderful opportunity, and it doesn't have to be difficult. Now, when I was going to the store last week, everybody was panicked, and all of the canned things were flying off the shelves, right? And so it was funny because, me being a chef and, the love of food, I was cracking up because I was like, oh my God, there's all these wonderful vegetables and everything. And, people are going for processed, canned, easy food. Well, that's not loving yourself. Okay. That is not going to keep your immune system activated the way we need to. We need live food with, high chlorophyll in there with good, vitamin A and D and all of the antioxidants to support our immune system. All of this depleted food is not going to get us anywhere. So, I mean, even the simplest thing is putting a salad together. Everybody can do that. It's pre-washed. Throw some protein in there, whether you're doing
What if you
vegetarian.
don't like salads?
So if you don't like salads, and a lot of people who have GI issues or compromised guts, it's very hard for them to digest. And I'd say cooked foods is no problem. The more you lose weight, the colder your temperature is. So you will need more cooked food just to ground you down a little bit more. So soups are great. There's bone broths out there. You could just put that and throw a bunch of vegetables into it. And instantaneously in 20 minutes, you've got a wonderful soup. You want to throw some animal protein in there, so long as it's pasture raised, terrific. So again, it doesn't need to be complicated. We don't need to use 20 ingredients. It can just be as simple as, we know we need 3 macronutrients. We've got to have protein in order for our immune system to be capable to fight and to repair and to detoxify. Now, what a lot of people don't know is if they eat too much animal protein, it literally can convert it to glucose, glycogen. And so we don't do, whenever I prescribed you a protocol, I did 38% of your weight or 20% of the total calories you burn. So it's very low not super low, but just low enough that we're not creating too much insulin response. So then again, the carbohydrates, they should be alive, right? If all things from plant kingdom turn into sugar, whether it's a vegetable, a fruit, a bean, or a grain, then we want to have quality and dense food. So what's easier than steaming your vegetables and then putting a little bit of olive oil on there that's not adulterated and heated, and having a piece of protein, or even putting a protein shake together. Take your blender. You don't have a whole lot of energy. Some collagen or plant-based protein, some nut milk, because we don't use a lot of dairy, because dairy also increases insulin growth factor. So for people who have tumors, it can actually exacerbate that. The only dairy that mostly recommend is going to be ghee, grass-fed butter, and organic cream, because it's a liquid butter. And then so can really kind of keeping the carbohydrates, because face it, we are emotionally driven, and now everybody's in their home. And I hear people saying all the time, well, I'm baking and I've got the kids and I'm making all these things. And I'm like, well, okay, that's perfectly fine. But how about we bake with keto type recipes? So you're not using flours, and you're using nut grains, and you're using alcohol sugars or monk fruit, stevia, things of that nature, that is not going to compromise you just because you're emotionally stressed out. We all have a drug of choice, whether it's alcohol or whether it is food or shopping or sex. Everybody's got addictions, right? But you want to say, I'm going to take that addictive nature and put it in a passionate way to self-love myself, and to take a little bit more time to maybe get my groove on for trying the kitchen. I mean, you want to say to yourself, when did I begin to believe a lie that I didn't like to cook? When did I begin to believe the lie that I wasn't a good cook, right? And so many times I hear patients go, I never thought I would enjoy cooking. And it's not that I love it, but now I'm really I'm actually getting good. So again, it's like we can find our groove when there is a need. Now, I will guarantee you, if this was your child that was compromised, you would do absolutely everything you can to just look at every internet on keto type recipes that you could make that your child would eat. But yet again, we don't do it for ourselves often.
Exactly. And I think you bring up so much. And the theme of this whole conversation truly is around self-love. And when you made that comment, it's like, when did you have that thought process of, cooking is not fun? And I always thought, you know what? Oh, it's a waste of time. I don't want to spend my energy, my time on this, to actually, practice this self-love and put the best nutrients that's in my body. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to actually open it up. I'd love to hear from Travis and Connor. If you can go in and I'm going to unmute, and I'm actually going to ask to start video. I'd love to, and just some different questions from folks that we have. Hey, Travis.
What's up?
Hey, Travis and I had a chance to talk last night. My daughter, Jacqueline Patterson, introduced me to him, and he's put together this fabulous company. We've also got Silvio on the call, and I'm gonna unmute in him and ask to start his video as well, and unmute him. And Rose, I think Rose Tafoya has the best questions out of everybody. But this is an opportunity, everybody. We're going to go ahead and unmute and spend this last 15 minutes. But Travis, tell us about your company that you started. And I am so excited. My husband signed up today.
Yeah, I actually missed a call from him. I tried to get back to him, but we were playing phone tag.
Oh, so this is what's so great is I'm based in Orange County. You're based in Orange County.
The neighbors. Yeah.
Neighbors, and I am bringing my wellness team family together. And you guys are my family. So for me, it's like, what do you need? What resources do you have? What toys do you have? How can we help each other? There's folks on here, Silvio, who is just an expert, in getting your body, truly in shape. And he's got this brilliant wife who's also a nurse. You've got some folks on this call that I go to, and I really want to bring us together so that we truly can be those spokes in the wheel. But
I was loving listening to the last person speak about keto and animal proteins and being I nerd out.
I'll share her with you. I will share her with you.
Yeah.
She's my nutritionist extraordinaire. And in fact, I definitely want to make sure that you guys are getting connected. We've started a Facebook page called the Real Share Global Family, where we can be communicating and sharing this information. You were a paramedic before.
Yeah, so I was a paramedic for a little over 10 years. And around the ninth year is when I started to really kind of hone more in on diet and exercise actually being able to cure some ailments versus just really expensive band-aids. It's my own personal opinion, but, I go into houses all the time, and one of the first questions we ask is, what kind of medical problems do you have? And a lot of people would go, oh, I don't have any. And I can see this like basket full of pills. Like literally they had these little, and I'm like, you're on high blood pressure medication. You're on, this, oh, when I take it, I don't have it. I'm like, that's not how that works. Versus like, if we can change your diet and we can introduce some exercise, we can actually get rid of that,
Well,
and
look at the opioid. I mean, look at the opioid issue. And,
yeah.
Liliana, I mean, we've talked about this, and that is there's so much, out there that people think, okay, I want that quick fix. I want that pill,
Right.
and I did. I mean, I took a product called Stellara to get rid of my psoriasis, horrible, horrible psoriasis. And lo and behold, on the paperwork you sign and it says, who's your oncologist? I didn't even know what an oncologist did. I mean, that's how, and then go in and find out that, the diagnosis is there. And so you start looking at, is everything that is going into your body, is it filled with love? Is it organic? Is it, and what's so exciting is with your meal prep, it's very much about that.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at a lot of other meal prep companies in the area, just even Orange County, and you look at their menu, it's all about like these very, I heard it earlier, complex, and trying to keep it simple. They're going for like chicken teriyaki, blah 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 blah, and it's like this really fancy looking thing. Where really what I did was I took these chefs and I focused more on like the ingredients themselves. So like all natural meat, wild caught fish, organic, farmers market source produce. And then like most people don't even taste food before they salt it. A lot of people are, and you look at a lot of meal prep companies are using like close to 1,000 milligrams of salt in the meal, and people are going to add salt to anyway. So I have the chefs not using salt. We're doing minimal seasoning. So really just like dialing in the cook on the meat, on the veggies and everything. So that just, you're bringing out the natural flavors, natural flavors of the products without heavily seasoning for more than one reason. First of all, wanting the food to be as healthy as possible. And then secondly, I work with a lot of like athletes, bodybuilding, and then people with like various dietary needs. Most people are going to season things already. And then also too, if someone could, order the same meal and use a variety of sauces to change the way that that meal tastes. I watch a lot of competitors bodybuild and they meal prep. They, cook 20 meals and they just eat the same meal 3 times a day. And I'm like, oh my God, I'd go absolutely insane. But they need the ability to use a salsa or a sauce or something to make that meal taste a variety of different ways. And so I've been designing meals that way. And I've been wanting to get to keto meals. And what's funny is I was getting ready to work on that next. And then you and I got in touch last night, and it's kind of accelerating me towards that. But we talked last night. I did keto as well after my traumatic brain injury at the end of 2017, which is why I was listening to you speak about the keto protocol and the animal products turning to glucose. And I hadn't heard that yet. And so I was like, oh, new news. Bring it. Let's hear it.
And this is why this is about us coming together. What I found in this journey in my wellness sabbatical was that how many people are operating from a silo of information. And the reason why I've asked you all and made, Liliana was just honored to have her be my nutritionist, was because she truly went at this in a collaborative fashion. And you and I, we talked for 3 hours last night and just covering all aspects. And that was something that I really felt. It was like people are coming together and they are sharing what they know. And in doing so, in this collaborative fashion, we're coming up with not only what's possible, but like the best of the best. I mean, for me to be on a protocol that's out of Germany is amazing. I would not have had that contact had I not gone through my biochemist and Dr. Ian, who's part of this whole wellness team family. Some of the questions that are coming up are Rose had a great one here. What about coconut milk? And can you outline a day of keto eating? What does that look like?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, and then we can go back and forth. We've got another 10 minutes.
Okay. So, so kind of what you want to kind of think about is that depending on if you're reproductive state or not, you're probably looking at about 20% of your total calories that you burn as in protein. So let's just say for a person who is burning 1,200 calories, they're going to need about 60 grams of protein a day in divided meals. You want to think of a scale. And so again, you never want the scale to be tipping one direction or another. If you have just protein only and not enough carbs, you're hungry in about an hour and a half, and you don't want to be led by hunger all the time, because then you get into the craving modality. If you have too many carbohydrates, you're going to get hungry in an hour and a half too. So you really want to have somewhat of a balance. And so if you can, well, my intention is to teach everyone how to really in a simple 1+1 fashion chemistry on, okay, how much protein do you actually need? Because how many calories are you actually burning? Anything in excess, you're going to store in your fat cell, and that's going to create more inflammation, and that's not where we want to go. And so typical for a person like myself, I'll have about 3.5 ounces of protein, which is about 3/4 of the palm of my hand. So if you kind of say all people, about 3/4 of the palm of your hand is really all you need if you're not in reproductive state anymore. You know, a lot of bodybuilders, you know, as you well know, you working with a lot of them, boy, they've got, 16-ounce cake. That's just basically going to throw their liver enzymes elevation. And it's like we make 80% of our own cholesterol, so we're only getting 20% from our foods, but that's going to be a problematic form as well. So really we don't need that much protein as we're led to believe. And then the carbohydrates, when we're trying to deal with decreasing the glucose level, I hardly ever put anybody on a real ketosis diet unless it's absolutely medically needed, whether it's brain or leukemia. I do the keto adaptive because, again, we don't want to starve the cancer by starving the patient. And weight loss, as you're experiencing right now, is scary because all of a sudden, you got to where you want to be. And also I'm like, oh gosh, I want to stop this weight loss because now I'm uncomfortable and I'm getting weak because your body's breaking down a lot of your muscle at the same time. So usually I have patients about at 12% of their total calories that they burn in carbohydrates. So usually for a man, I will not go over 60 grams of carbohydrates a day. And for a woman, somewhere around 14 carbs per meal. And I give them all the paperwork to substantiate it. So they say, oh, okay, all I have to do is pick 1.5 choices of these foods, and it comes out to 14 grams of sugar or 20, depending on a man. And then fats, because they don't really need to utilize insulin to cross the cell wall. So fats can be more generously used so long as they're not adulterated and fried and overheated. And so really predominantly their diets, I have them between 70 and 75% of their total calories in fat. And what does that equate to? It equates to about 2 tablespoons of oil in a salad, honestly, or on a meal. People think this keto mindset when you go online, oh, I can have all the bacon and cheese and sour cream, and that is 100% inflammatory. So that is a no-go for anybody who has a compromised immune system. We don't do the dairy because of the insulin growth factor. We do the butter, the ghee things. We absolutely bacon, pork and parasites. We just don't go there because cancer and parasites and candida, they love each other. So again, we do what we call a clean keto modified approach to it. So for breakfast, you might have a shake, protein powder, plant-based protein or collagen, some almond milk, some fiber like some chia seed in there, maybe a handful of spinach, maybe even a half of an avocado if you're losing weight, with a tablespoon of cacao in there. Whip that thing up, and now you've got breakfast. For lunch would be, maybe if you're eating animal protein, a nice salad with a piece of salmon on it, some roasted vegetables, avocado, and olive oil dressing. And then maybe for dinner, I try to have them do a vegetarian meal. Maybe a nice, really beautiful stir fry, and maybe they put a little hemp seeds and pine nuts over it. So again, it's not really difficult. It's really pretty darn simple.
Well, and one of the things we're doing, so we have Wellness Week that's coming up. And what's so cool, we started planning this live stream virtual Wellness Week where we're actually going to be doing a tour of my home, so Healing Home. And hopefully the date of that is April 25th to May 2nd. And we're going to be doing some recipes. I love and have had a chance to go ahead and look at your book before it's been published. So I'm really, really excited about that. And Travis, one of the comments that came up is asking the question, do you deliver to Colorado?
I mean, right now we're just in Orange County, and as you and I were talking last night, we have plans to expand into some of the neighboring counties. I have not considered Colorado yet, but if we got so busy that we had to, that'd be a great problem to have.
So one of the things I said to, I'm all about creating the wellness team family and helping all of you create your wellness team family so that when you do have a WTF moment, you have your family to call on, your wellness team family. And one of the things I said to Travis, I said, okay, I will go ahead, we'll build this thing out, but I just want to make sure, because my husband makes the comment. My husband says this, he goes, there's 3 forms of advertisement: the telephone, the television, and tell Michelle. And I go, Travis, I don't want to call and be like, hey, so can you put me like at the top of the list? Because I need to eat and I'm not getting my food. And he was like,
cook it myself. I'll make sure you're fed.
So I really appreciated that. And Liliana has been doing the same and keeping me up to date. There's some folks on here who've been asking questions. Rain, thank you. Is the protein amount for the day? We covered that. And I want to say thank you. Rain's going to be on and sharing her organization. And we're going to be focusing on career, physical, financial, social, and community. And let's go in with the mindset that we all have an opportunity to really embrace this period of time. It's a time for all of us to step into owning our wellness and recognizing that in doing so, we get to decide. If you're bummed out or you're upset or you're frustrated or you feel like your body's crapping out or whatever, get real with yourself, get real with your body and own it. Own the fact that we get to create this. If I'm upset and I'm having a bad day, then I take myself aside, I sit myself down and I first start listening to, what is it that I'm trying to express? Because there's two ways that we show up. We can either show up in love or we show up in fear. And fear is a cry for help. So listen to your body, listen to yourself. When you are crying out for help, don't go at this alone. There's no reason to. And by the way, we're not all scientists and doctors and nutritionists and coaches. And I mean, we have our genius. Figure out your genius, and then let's light it up, and share with each other's geniuses. So that way we can have a year like I had and making it the best year, regardless of the chaos that's going on out there. You decide, you make that decision. So with that, I had decided that every call I wanted to go ahead and play. And Connor, if you could crank it up, but I want to end the call with dancing. So join in, you guys.
It's like my kryptonite. The one thing I don't do.
Show me what you got, Travis.
Oh, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm doing. I think she's got going with her hand. Oh, man.
Come on, Rosie.
I was like, really? The one thing?
Hey, and you could dance like this. You could dance like this. Oh. Well, I appreciate you guys. Continue, join in, and let's dance our way through this.
Yeah,
all right. Fun. Have an awesome day, everybody. Love you.
Later.
Love yourself. Start with you. Love yourself. Thank you, Liliana. Love you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great afternoon. Happy Friday. Woo. See you Monday. Bye.
Bye.
See you Monday.